Hey guys, this is Mason11, and tonight I'm going to be bringing you my MLB Playoff Predictions. Now, you may have seen my NFL Playoff Predictions in the past in this format. My MLB predictions I have here are going to be in that same kind of structure where I show you the playoff teams and kind of as I go in the bracket. So, without further ado, let's get to it. So, as we all know, our playoff teams for the AL, we have the Boston Red Sox as a #1 seed with a crazy good 108-win season. That is absolutely fantastic. Meanwhile, Houston Astros also coming off a very impressive 103-win campaign. Cleveland Indians at the 3rd seed, winning the AL Central. Division sucks, by the way, but Indians are still a very good team. 4th seed, first wild card, New York Yankees, 100 wins as well, which is actually kind of unbelievable if you ask me, to have not only a 100-win wild card team, but 3 100-win playoff teams in one conference. And even then, our number 5 seed, Oakland A's, the 2nd wild card, put up 97 wins. So we got truth is, we have a shitload of talent here in the AL, unlike our other conference, the NL. Not to say that these teams are bad, but the AL is a lot more talented. Anyway, so for our number 1 seed in the NL, we have the Milwaukee Brewers. Very impressive season. I did think they would make the playoffs, but I did not expect them to do this well. Anyway, 2nd seed, LA Dodgers, won a very close tiebreaker game tonight against the Rockies. 3rd seed, Atlanta Braves, very surprising season. It's great to see all the youth coming into playing its own role. Anyway, moving on, 4th seed, first wild card, Chicago Cubs. 5th seed, 2nd wild card, Colorado Rockies. So our 2 losers from the 2 tiebreakers we just had today earlier in the afternoon. Alright, so moving on to our first wildcard game, I'm going to be starting it off with Oakland Athletics visiting the New York Yankees. Now, I know that a lot of people are probably thinking that the Yankees are well, maybe not heavily, but kind of maybe significantly favored to win this matchup, but truth is, I don't see it like that. The Oakland A's bullpen is lethal. And if they are able to shut down a lot of some of the high-potent offense we see on the Yankees, they can very well put up more runs than the Yanks with their nice young hitting cores as well. And what was I going to say? Oh, so unlike last year's wild card where the Yankees were kind of crushed the Twins after they came back in the 1st inning, I don't see it being like this at all. I think it'll be a nice little pitcher's duel at the start, but then mainly because this is a home advantage thing, and just is at Yankee Stadium, and just that the Yankees offense is going to be highly powered to look in hopes to advancing and perhaps even making a World Series run this year. I think they're going to eventually get to I think they're going to beat the Oakland Athletics, but just by a couple of runs. But even though the Oakland A's are kind of sort of a raw team right now, I mean, no one really expected them to make the playoffs, but they still have a fantastic team, and given that they have the lowest payroll, if they can make some moves over free agency, they can very well go very far next year, not only passing the Houston Astros in the ALDS, but perhaps even taking over the AL. But for now, I think there's just not enough experience on the team, and I think this game will be helpful for the long run, but for now, I see the Yankees advancing. Alright, moving on to our NL wildcard, we have the Colorado Rockies visiting the Chicago Cubs. Colorado Rockies have been overall quite hot this past month, but whereas the Cubs, definitely not the best baseball they could have been playing, given that they kind of gave away the NL Central today, actually. Also acknowledging the fact that they've kind of been leading that division pretty much all the whole season, so maybe not the best way to end it for the Cubs, obviously, and just for power rankings wise, they kind of would definitely have a lot less momentum compared to the Colorado, but I still think the Cubs are the better team in this matchup. It is very, very close, but just I don't really trust Colorado's pitching that much. I know the offense is absolutely explosive. It can very well take advantage of the Chicago pitching, but and while I do kind of expect this game to be pretty overall high scoring. I think the Cubs are going to come out on top also by a little. So that concludes our 2 wildcard games. I have both home teams winning. So now we're going to move it on to the ALDS and NLDS. So what I'm going to start with, I'm going to start with the AL first and then the NL next, just like what I do with the wildcards. But for now, I'm going to pick the Yankees and the Red Sox. Now, this is a matchup that I am extremely hopeful we're going to see. The fact that this could mean the great rivalry of baseball is back. The two teams are overall kind of atop the whole entire MLB, and no one's out. These teams, they're gonna want to move on so badly and knock out their biggest foe over this whole past century. All right, so I know the Boston Red Sox were without a doubt your regular season #1 team, but you can't really let the record fool you here. I do believe the Red Sox are quite overrated entering these playoffs. The pitching since September has been very, very inconsistent, and the bullpen is highly lacking. And when it comes to playoffs, that is not the formula. That is not the formula that's going to let you win games and move on in hopes of championship. So I do think the Yankees are going to have an advantage to that. Not to say that the Red Sox aren't going to put off a fight. This is definitely. I think this is easily going to go to a Game 5. I'll put that aside right here. This is going to be a Game 5 series. It's just that, and I know the Red Sox do have a great offense. I can't trust that pitching against the whole. I can't trust the Red Sox pitching against the Yankees offense. It's just too explosive right now. So this might somewhat perhaps be a little reminiscent of last year when the Yankees kind of upset the Cleveland Indians as a wild card, as well in 5 games. But I think we're going to kind of basically see it again this time. And I know Red Sox fans, if you're watching this, you're probably not going to be happy with that prediction at all, given that you're losing to the Yankees in the ALDS when you have a roster that should be very well equipped for a championship. You guys are still a very, very good team, and I would not shock me at all, not only for you guys to beat the Yankees, but even go all the way. But just the pitching is just a major question mark for me, and I just can't trust it. So I'm picking an upset here. I'm going with the Yankees in 5. All right, so now I'm going to be moving on to the Indians and the Astros. This is a kind of easier matchup to predict. I don't think it'll be a sweep, but I do not see it going into 5 games. Again, how I've kind of repeatedly mentioned pitching. Both teams have very good pitching here, but just the Astros pitching is astounding. And on top of that, they have a bunch of reigning champs like Altuve, Correa, Springer, but I love Alex Bregman. I think he's going to be the X factor, not only in the series, but as well as for later in the playoffs after they pass through the ALDS. So not much to say besides that. I'm going again with Houston, and I do think we will have an ALCS rematch. Alright, so now I'm going to be moving on to the NLDS, and I'm going to start with our NL Central matchup, the Cubs and the Brewers. As I said, I don't really like the momentum the Cubs have, whereas the Brewers, the momentum they have is off the charts. And the truth is, when it comes to playoffs, all you gotta do is get hot at the end of the season, and you're gonna have the momentum rolling, and perhaps it can even let you cruise through the entire postseason. And not only that, but also the Milwaukee Brewers pitching core is also unbelievable. So, and again, that's going to be a huge factor. And the truth is, I haven't even mentioned Christian Yelich yet. That's how much I am stocking into the Brewers this upcoming playoffs. So, I know the Cubs definitely had a very good season. Javier Baez is very MVP worthy. Not that this means much, but I do think Christian Yelich is going to win it. But anyway, I do think this is going to be a 4-game. I'm going to say 4 games. I'm going to go Brewers 3-1 here. I just absolutely love the momentum, the pitching, and even though his team doesn't really have much playoff experience, I just think the players just have so much just potential in here that's just ready to explode. Alright, so as I said, Brewers will be moving on to the NLCS. Now we're going to move on to the Braves visiting the Dodgers. This is actually kind of hard matchup for me to pick. The Braves, not really the most experienced team, just they're kind of sort of developing into a future perennial playoff team. Um, I'm not sure. I don't know how far they're going to go in the first year. Definitely could pass the Dodgers. Dodgers, I'm not really the biggest fan of either, although they looked very impressive over this past week or so. Pitching, I'd say I'm going to actually give the advantage to the Braves here with Foley-Newich and such. Um, I know the Dodgers have like Bueller and like Stripling and Kershaw, who's although not the same, he's still obviously a good pitcher. And it's just I think this is actually going to come down to the offense here with like Muncy, Bellinger, Machado, and just the rest of that whole 9 yards. I think just all that's just stocked in after it all being equipped over right by the trade deadline. I think that's going to be the difference maker here in the series. I do think it's going to go into 5 games, but I'm going to be going with the familiar Los Angeles Dodgers here. I do think the Braves, much like the Oakland Athletics, like I said previously, are going to have a lot of potential for the next few years or so. But I think for now, it's just too early. All right, so now I'm going to move on to the ALCS, where we have the Yankees and the Astros. Um, this is definitely probably a little more easier to pick, but truth is, this could be one of the best, or maybe even the best series matchup we're going to have throughout the playoffs if like it happens in this specific occurrence that I'm predicting. I do think this will go into 7 games, in which we're going to see the Yankees very hungry for revenge after last year's miss. But just the Astros and that pitching, I don't see anyone stopping. Not even a high-powered offense like the Yankees. It's just that simple. And just the Astros, they know how to do it. They know how to move far. The Yankees obviously have won playing a World Series, but not like as of this time. So and just I don't really think what's his face Aaron Boone is going to be ready to get a World Series championship already. I think it's going to go. I think maybe not the World Series, but at least the pennant for sure is going to be going to the Astros yet again. Not the outcome I want to see. I'd rather see the Yankees or Red Sox represent the AL, but I don't see either of them going that far. I think the Astros are just too dominant of a juggernaut, and I don't see either team from the not only just the AL East but elsewhere as well being able to overtop them to move on. So 7 games probably could be very well in the same kind of order of last year, where I won't go out on a limb and say all games will be won by the home team, just like we saw last year. But I do think it's going to go back and forth. There'll be lead changes in the series, but then the Astros will just come out top in the Game 7 for the World Series. All right, so that brings me to the Dodgers and the Brewers. Pretty easy pick here. I'm just gonna say it. I am just a huge fan. I am absolutely hyped on the Brewers pitching staff. I feel like I might have made that a little bit kind of obvious because Brewers are kind of only team I've kind of talked sort of very excited about out of all 5 teams in the NL. Like I said, AL is definitely much better than the NL, but I do think even though there's not much experience on the Brewers, there's just way too much talent for them to be stopped by any of these other teams that they're going to be facing in the playoffs. And I know the Dodgers have been a very good competitors over the past 5 years or so. Always been a playoff team. Always have made great progress. I know they just only made the World Series last year, but they're still very high quality. But I do think this is going to be the Brewers' time to shine, and I'm going to pick the Milwaukee Brewers in 6. So that brings me to the World Series. It will be the Houston Astros versus the Milwaukee Brewers. A battle of absolutely outstanding pitching, along with some great kind of young hitting cores as well. As for the World Series, Little bit tough. I'm going to be going in 6 games, and much like the reasons why they won last year against the Dodgers, I do think the Houston Astros are going to repeat as champions. I just don't see anyone stopping them with that absolutely absurd pitching staff and just all your great playoff batters that we have seen over the past few years, especially last season when they went on that run. I just really don't see anything changing here. I do think this will probably not be the same outcome for next year, but I don't see any signs that are going to tell me the Houston Astros are going to be stopped. So I think that concludes it. I am picking the Houston Astros to win the 2018 World Series, and I don't think I have much else to say from here. So if your team is in the playoffs, wish you very well, best of luck, and I really don't have much, so good night.